Hello, ladies, and welcome to tonight's Village programming. We are joined today by our special guest, Cindy Marques, who is the CEO of tonight's event. She is from the organization That Make Sense. Cindy specializes in working with millennials to help them overcome money stress, pay off debt, grow their wealth, and achieve financial freedom. So tonight, Cindy will walk us through the principles of minimalism and how it shapes the way we think about spending. So I know I'm excited to hear from Cindy. So thank you all for joining us. And I will go ahead and turn it over to her. And please just be reminded that tonight's presentation is being recorded. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to make sure I have the chat pinned here so that I can monitor everything for us. Let me get this set up. Okay, awesome. And okay, so this is a very timely topic. And I imagine that this was intentional in terms of the timing during the year. We just came off of, a whirlwind of Black Friday and Cyber Monday offers being inundated in our inboxes, targeted to us in our social media feeds. It's hard not to feel wrapped up in the desire, the urge, the impulsion to spend and collect and add more, do more at this time. So this is going to be a good conversation, and I imagine it's gonna, trigger some feelings, and I hope we can, foster some conversation today. I'm gonna, call on you to engage in the chat throughout the presentation, but also feel free at any time to just unmute yourself and, chat with me verbally. So let's dive in. We're going to talk about minimalism and mindful spending today. Let's start off with, talking about what minimalism is and is not. I would define minimalism as a tool that can assist you in finding freedom. Freedom from fear, fear of not having enough cash left to make it through the month. Freedom from worrying about not keeping up with trends or the newest versions of everything, especially if you happen to be in the Apple ecosystem of constant replacements, constant new additions, constant new adapters and accessories that are, Apple only, that, trap you in their ecosystem, always needing to keep up. Freedom from feelings of overwhelmed by clutter, overwhelmed by targeted advertising. I know I am. My feeds and inboxes are nuts, and I've had to silence quite a few of them and hit unsubscribe on several just for the sake of finding some peace of mind lately. Freedom from guilt, guilty with buyer's remorse after the reality of costs sink in. I'm not gonna call anyone out on this, but I imagine some of you may be feeling that way after indulging a little bit too much during a time of, great deals and discounts, and then realizing most of that, wow, I didn't need that. And I ended up spending a lot more anyway, versus if I had just remained focused on what it is I need versus getting wrapped up. In general, I feel like minimalism is a tool that can assist you in finding freedoms from the trappings of the consumer culture that we've built our lives around. And I see Kim giving an acknowledgement of that. Yes, been there. Just because I'm a financial expert doesn't mean I'm not human and don't also get caught up in those moments, in moments of impulsion and being controlled by my spending versus having control over it. It takes conscious work and intention to stay on point. And so too with minimalism, and we'll get into that. But I think that this is a worthwhile endeavor. In general, I think this is real freedom that we're talking about here in the modern age. Let's talk about what minimalism is not. I went and did some research before making this presentation just to see how various experts or websites describe it. And, I read some articles out there describing minimalism. I'm distracted by Missy's comment because I think it's funny. Stop myself from admitting that the iPhone 13 is looking nice. Meanwhile, I'm sure your phone is working just great. But then again, the way things are built now, it's almost like they're designed to crap out after a year, to keep you in that endless cycle of buy, replace, buy, replace. Oh, now this comes with an accessory that only Apple can sell and that I must have it to use this device. That's annoying. So I get it. You get trapped. But back to what minimalism is not. It's not just about stuff. I read articles where it's like, okay, to be a true minimalist, you have to pare down everything that you owe into, an amount of things that can easily fit within your luggage so that you can, up and leave at any time, nothing that's going to anchor you to any one place. But honestly, I don't think that's accurate because, again, minimalism is this concept and way of being that goes beyond just a set of rules about stuff and how much you can own. And I don't think it really has a lot to do with, putting a limit to the amount of stuff you have, more so about having the control and freedom with your relationship with stuff. There's nothing inherently wrong with owning material possessions. Today's problem is the meaning we assign to our stuff. We tend to give way too much meaning to our things, often forsaking our health, our relationships, our passions, our personal growth, our desire to contribute beyond ourselves. We can end up sabotaging our own lives for the sake of protecting things and stuff above all else. I'm wondering if any of you can, and you don't have to give the example, but I'm wondering if any of you can think of a time or example where you might have put too much meaning or assigned too much importance to an item, to stuff, to even, a place above all else, and had other things falter because of it. If you've ever gotten too wrapped up in chasing a certain ideal that has to do with excess and doing more. Those are the kinds of things that we want to free ourselves with minimalism. Minimalism ultimately is a practice that's going to allow you to make decisions more consciously, more deliberately. Again, it's not just about the stuff. It's about taking control of your life and not being governed by that chase for excess. Must have more things, must have more dinners out, must post more photos of myself looking happy with those things at my dinners out, must be more social, must have more friends. These are all things and ideas and trappings that we are trying to move away from with minimalism. On that last note about must be more social, must have more friends. One way I've been practicing minimalism in my relationships as I become an adult, I guess, maybe at first it wasn't conscious. It was more so just having less time as an adult. And I'm sure you can all agree, you just have less time to be a socialite. I have been refining my list of go-to friends over the years and as an adult. I think sometimes, especially when it comes to workplaces, this is something I've noticed in my time. Every time I enter a new workplace, you create this group of people that you feel very close to, and you're like, all of these people are my friends. I really like them so much, all of them. And then you leave that workplace and you go somewhere else. And then you realize the number of people that you actually keep with you in your network, that you continue to hang out with, talk to, foster that relationship further. It's maybe like one or two, lucky if there's more than that. And I've always appreciated those moments, changing workplaces, where automatically this filter gets applied to the people in my life, filtering away those that were acquaintances and lovely acquaintances who I do care about, and I want the best for them, versus those that are truly, ride or die, that I'm going to take with me, and I want to continue to foster this relationship. And I realized in those moments that it wasn't worth my energy to keep trying to force keeping up all those other relationships with the other people who were just not as convenient to hang out with, right? I think that a lot of the time we build up our social circles based on what's situationally convenient for us. We are really good friends with a group of people that we go to school with while we're in school with them. And then we graduate. Who do you take with you? We're really close with the people we work around with, back when we used to work in person, because we have to see them every day and they're there. So you become friendly with a lot of people. And then you leave that workplace, or you start working from home, as most of us are. Who are the people that you're taking with you, that you spend the time fostering that relationship? And I see Bissy agreeing in the comments there. And you know what? I have found this to be such a relief. Once I realized that I don't need to maintain all of these relationships and put so much energy into it, because as an adult, as I have less and less time, I really would rather just have a smaller crew of solid people that are worth investing my energy and love into versus playing socialite. Another example of how minimalism can help you make decisions more consciously, more deliberately. Think about, when the pandemic first hit, I thought that I'd have nothing to do without bars and restaurants. And it's just always what I did to go out and have fun. That was kind of the default. And suddenly, because we were forced to really choose our activities and how we spend our time, and there seemed like there was less immediately obvious for us to do to entertain ourselves, I noticed how much I really grew to suddenly appreciate the little things and find so much more gratitude in my life, in being able, when we were locked indoors, like truly locked in, and we weren't allowed to be on the streets when that first lockdown happened. And if any of you happen to peruse downtown during that time, it was so eerie to see it empty. So there's very little to do, but I became so appreciative of just being able to go to a park and sit under a tree and get some sun on my face. Those little things that suddenly became so satisfactory to me that made me realize, I don't need all this other stuff. I can choose how to spend my time and really enjoy that time. So I'm curious, anyone who is comfortable sharing, have any of you tried practicing minimalism or general life of less excess in general? And how did that change things for you? And I give you a second if you want to reply to this. I've given some examples of how, without realizing that I was practicing aspects of minimalism because life was just making it harder for me to live in excess, whether it's going out all the time or just collecting so many friends, how much freer I felt, how much lighter I felt without the weight of this expectation to keep up with everything. Honestly, I didn't look at it as minimalism back then, but in creating this presentation, I realized those moments when it happened, the outcome was always positive. I never felt like I was lacking because suddenly I had less. I actually felt richer because of it. So let's move on. At any time, you can drop some comments or anecdotes in the chat there. Oops. All right. So here are some of the ways minimalism can help you. Let's start with number one, contentment over comparison. Being happy with what you have versus what you lack or think you lack over others. I just hosted another workshop discussing buying versus renting, and I've hosted this with the Villij. I think that was back in October. And it was interesting, and I'm bringing it up about minimalism because of the outcome that it had with the crowd that I presented to. Several people were commenting after I was done about how it felt like I just lifted a huge burden off their chest, essentially by showing them and running through the mathematical scenarios and truths about the possibilities for your life, if you were to forego buying a home entirely or putting it off, but even if you were to forego that aspect and remain a renter indefinitely, how you can still come out on top financially and have more, even though you feel like you have a lot less because you weren't able to fulfill that expectation that your family is putting on you, that you're putting on yourself, that you're, seeing your friends and colleagues accomplish. And you're like, well, I guess I got to buy a home then. Like that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm 30. Okay, I guess I'm supposed to have a home. But that's so stressful. And when you look at the math, which is what I was doing at the time, truthfully, it actually didn't make a lot of sense to rush into being a buyer or being a buyer at all in a lot of cases. And so why do we do it? Why do we chase after that? Why do we set that as a goal for ourselves that we must have this, have more, have, more assets, more adult milestones, quote unquote. I have to check more things off this list of, okay, I'm an adult now, so I must have X, Y, Z by now. I should accomplish all of this by now. But do we really? A lot of the attendees of that event said, you know what, upon watching that, I feel so much more less stressed now that this expectation has been lifted, and it allows me to do so much more. And again, contentment with your current scenario, your current situation versus what you see other people doing, what you see other people striving towards. Apply this to your relationships, being content with where you're at in life and what you're working on and focusing on that versus concerning yourself too much with what other people are doing, having kids, getting married, buying a home together. Is that what we need? Do we need more milestones to be happy, to be successful? It's taken me some time to realize that was not the case. Again, it took me some time to realize I don't need more insofar as, okay, I need to buy a home. I'm very happy to be a renter and nowhere near being a homeowner. My marriage broke down when the pandemic started, and I realized, I'm happy with that versus comparing myself to others who seem to have done more. Not only were they married and seemingly happily married, but they were having kids, they were accomplishing all of this, they were traveling so much together. And you know what? I don't regret the decision. It was the best thing I ever did for myself. And I'm very happy with where I'm at, even though on paper, it might seem like I suddenly have less. Yeah, you know what? I have 200 pounds less of a human being stressing me out in my life. So I'm content, and I stopped comparing. Intention over impulsion. Buying with purpose and control versus spending as a reaction to our emotions, to our state of being. I think a lot of us feel like, oh, I've had a really tough week, tough month, tough year. I deserve this. I got to treat myself. Or vice versa. I had a really great month, great year, great week. I should treat myself. Somehow, regardless of what the situation was, we can find a reason to treat ourselves because that's just the thing to do, an excuse I apply to this activity so that I can easily allow myself to get wrapped up in like, yeah, sure, just tap my credit card, get that pedicure, get a massage, buy a new purse, whatever it may be, because hashtag treat yourself. But are you in control in those moments? Are you doing it because it's something that you thought about and you set out to accomplish something and you told yourself ahead of time, like, when I get this accomplished, when I reach that goal, I'm gonna treat myself by doing X. And if it involves money, I'll limit myself to X dollars. Or is it just something happened that made you feel good or sad, and so you're just like, okay, well, now I'm just going to treat myself and there's no limit attached to it. Again, it's timely because Black Friday, Cyber Monday just happened not too long ago. And I think about, and Missy's laughing because I'm calling her out unintentionally. But hey, I'm just sharing my story. It's great that we resonate with each other, some solidarity here. But let's, talk about the fact that, again, I'm going to keep using myself as an example because I'm not foolproof. I too got wrapped up in the impulsions to click on all those discounts and deals that were sent to my inbox, were showing up on my social feeds last month and in the last couple of weeks, during the holidays. I saw it and I'm like, these sexy deals. Oh my God, when am I going to get this 60% off again during the year? And so I'm clicking on these deals, and right off the bat, before I even, thought deeply about it, do I need this or not? I just start adding to cart. I'm just looking around. Oh, this is a great deal. Add to cart, add to cart. Before stopping myself and realizing, what am I doing? I don't need 25 candles just because this is a great deal on 3-wick candles at Bath and Body Works. And I love candles. I don't need this much stuff. I'm getting wrapped up in the allure of these deals without actually thinking about what's important to me this month and what I want to do with my money. And the fact that this is already an expensive month to begin with. So am I considering the outcome of how it's going to make me feel if I overspend and then start 2022 off in the hole with less money than I need to get by? I wasn't thinking about that stuff. I just get wrapped up in the shopping and the adding to carts. So, one little trick that I do in those moments, because sometimes, there's a sense of thrill and excitement and satisfaction you get out of online shopping. And, sometimes I do enjoy it as an activity to just go on, my favorite shopping websites and fill up my cart with stuff that looks nice. But then I look at that cart, I scrutinize it deeply, I end up deleting a lot of stuff from it, and I nail it down to these are the things that, out of everything I just blindly added to cart, these are the things I really, really love. But then I still don't buy it. In fact, I save that cart after, really scrutinizing it and paring it down. I walk away from it, save the cart, and then I see how I feel about it the next day. I return to it. Usually by then, I'll look at it and be like, no, I don't need this. That was fun. I got my kicks out of window shopping and filling my cart and seeing what's out there and seeing the things that I might want and might want to lust after in the future. But I'll save towards that and buy it when I really choose to buy it versus adding to cart because there's a deal. So I either, make notes. Okay, that's a nice thing that I like. But usually I forget about it, or I decide the next day that I don't actually need this and I walk away from it. Or the cart didn't save, so it's just gone. And I have no interest in building up the cart again. So like, perfect. I'm not spending any money today. So apply a little bit of time to your shopping. Go ahead and, window shop online and add to your cart and look at it and feel satisfied with like, yes, look at this beautiful, refined list of stuff that I didn't realize I wanted until now. But then allow yourself, the next day to come back to it and see how you feel about it then. And usually that's more than enough to make you realize like, I don't actually need this right now. It looks nice, but I got my kicks out of online shopping. Quality over quantity. Look, luxury items are not a bad thing. I think anyone that works with me, and we've talked about shopping or the things that you like to splurge on, and in a lot of cases when I'm working with females, especially during the pandemic, there's been, for a lot of us, myself included, a switch from this need to, do our makeup and hair every day, and instead a switch to personal care, skincare, getting facials, the odd manicure here and there, and then they feel guilty, like, oh, Cindy, I don't even want to talk about what I spend on my skincare every time I need to re-up. I'm like, you know what? If that's what's important to you, and that's what brings you joy, and that's good stuff that you're buying, and it's not cheap, obviously. Anyone who's really into skincare knows it's not cheap, but that's fine. Buying fewer quality things versus a lot of crappy stuff. It just depends on where your priorities are and if it's important to you. I buy clothing items with intention now. Like I said, I do those add to cart moments and then refine to sort of distill it down to the key staple pieces that I would like to add to my wardrobe so that I can create more of a high quality capsule wardrobe and choose things of quality of the product, quality of how it will make me feel over quantity, having several things that don't bring me as much joy as this one, high quality, well-made pair of boots, for example. versus just a lot of crappy shoes that are going to fall apart and are not made of, good materials, etc. That's going to bring me a lot more joy and last a lot longer than a bunch of fast fashion trendy stuff. And again, applying this to relationships. I am very much all for a small group of very solid friends versus a huge network of acquaintances that I'm racking myself to play socialite with. In fact, after I left my husband, I started to make it an annual tradition. So now I've had 2 birthdays since then. And I always apply it to my birthday because I'm like, okay, I'm a year older. I want to be a year smarter and better and of higher quality. And that applies to my life and relationships. That was a crappy marriage that I felt stuck in for so long. And I think back to how it made me feel and how much it weighed me down. And now every birthday, I think about what are the relationships that I'm forcing to happen. That is like awkward conversation. You always have those odd friends where you can only talk about certain topics with. It's like not a genuine connection, free-flowing conversation where you don't have to think too much about what you say because, oh my God, they're going to judge me or something. It's like you can only talk about a few things without it getting uncomfortable. And like, enough of that. Enough of these forced friendships and relationships just because, I see other people posting all of these gatherings and I'm like, oh my God, how great. So nice that they have this huge group of friends and always out together. But I'm like, do I really want that? I don't know. I think about those situations and all the forced conversation and I'm not about it. I don't want to force anything. I don't want to have to convince myself to like you and enjoy my time around you. So I have pared down quality of human beings and relationships over quantity. And that's totally fine. And I do not feel lonely. And I can guarantee that you won't either. And again, coming to stuff, I maybe at least seasonally 4 times a year, I do a huge purge of all my closets and drawers, etc. Random little, we always have like that junk drawer, these things that accumulate stuff we don't even realize. I always pick an area of the house to do a big purge on seasonally. And it feels so good every time. Every time I rid myself of a bunch of stuff, it actually feels so relieving. And when it comes to clothing in particular, if any of you were part of the low spend challenge that the Villij did, I believe we did that in October, I included a little piece about, purging your closet for the sake of having a larger wardrobe, which sounds counterintuitive. But I think that when we're so cluttered, when you walk into your wardrobe and you look at so much stuff, usually that's when we're like, oh my God, I have nothing to wear. Because it's very hard to figure out how to put together an outfit when you're not really able to locate these key pieces that you love. Especially during the pandemic when I realized there's a lot of stuff I wasn't wearing anymore, i.e. most of my business clothes, which are gone at this point, that was getting in my way. And I knew that I look at it and I'm like, I don't wear that anymore. And so everything I'm filtering through, I'm like, oh, I don't wear that. I don't wear that. So by the time I've gotten through my whole wardrobe, I'm like, none of this stuff works for me. I have nothing to wear. Meanwhile, I just rifled through so much stuff that when I purge and I have very few items left, suddenly a whole new world of possibilities of arrangements of outfits between these few key pieces have opened up. And it feels like the less clothing and accessories I have, in fact, the larger my wardrobe has become. It's become much easier to decide each day, what do I want to wear? And how can I mix and match these to make something new and different? I see Caitlin sort of affirming that. She's in the process of decluttering your physical and digital spaces. Yes, digital spaces. Thank you. I have done that too, where I go through all of my folders and I'm like, why do I have like 1,000 subfolders and everything? Everything gets lost, or perhaps maybe not enough subfolders. And I just have a ton of files lumped into one place and there's no order to the chaos. It's just so much stuff. And then I'm never able to find the important files. So it feels so liberating to just get the clutter out of your life. So, so far I can promise you that having less does not feel like less. In this case, minimalism really helps you understand how having less can be more. And really the key driving point here is that ultimately minimalist living is all about letting go of what doesn't matter in your life and focusing on what does. And the things that matter to you will typically revolve around your core values. And so minimalism can help you determine what those core values are. For example, travel. If traveling is important to you, which I'm sure it is, important to me too, and yet you allow yourself to get wrapped up in shopping too much or dining out too much each month, that you don't allot or allow yourself to save for these trips and travels that you keep dreaming about. And how does that make you feel ultimately when you keep talking about, like, oh, I just want to take a trip to Portugal for 3 weeks. It's something that has been on my mind, and yet you keep shopping for crap that doesn't bring you nearly as much joy and excitement as this idea of Portugal can bring you. Then what are we doing? Are our actions aligned with our values? If I'm saying, this trip is going to make me a lot happier than this new set of t-shirts, then why am I wasting my money on the t-shirts? Practicing minimalism lets you get crystal clear on what's important to you and how you're going to focus your time, money, and energy on those goals, on your core values. So how do we apply minimalism to our financial management? I mean, this one seems like it's pretty straightforward, to spend less than you earn, but I don't think it's as easy in practice, because first you have to realize how much money you actually need to truly survive. And in a lot of cases, most people are not able to distill, this is what my life costs, like the base cost of my life, to put a roof over my head, to feed myself with groceries, so not dining out, but like bare minimums. This is what it costs to put a roof over my head, to get around and travel, whether it's transit or car, and to feed myself and then pay all the other bills and fixed expenses that you have every month. Do you know what that number is? And I'm sure a lot of you don't, because it's not something that we go out of our way to think about unless you're actively budgeting and cash flow managing. And that's what we do, by the way. That makes sense, is a strong focus on that. And once you realize how much money you truly need to survive, it's quickly to realize that everything beyond that is really just a want, and often a superfluous want. Something that, you want not just because it might make your life better, but just because. You want it just because. And a lot of the things that we spend so much money on are that just because. And we waste a lot of money doing that, taking away from things and goals that are more closely and deeply aligned with our core values, that would have that money seen well spent otherwise. And to help you rein in your spending, you have to start to realize that essentially every time you're spending money, you're trading money for your freedom. Okay, so one principle I try to live by is questioning all of my purchases. It takes time to earn money, and my time is my freedom. So by giving up my money, I'm giving up small pieces of my freedom. Before I make a purchase, I ask myself, is this worth X dollars of my freedom? How much of my time and energy does it take to earn those dollars, that X dollar item? That time is what I'm really spending when I make a purchase. Okay, you wouldn't have spent that time working if you didn't need to earn the money, right? Would we really hustle as hard as we do if not for the money that comes from the hustling? So really, when we're buying stuff, it's not money that we're spending, it's our time. The time we spent working for that money, realistically. Because think about that. It feels so much easier to spend free money that's just handed to you because we didn't have to spend the time working for it. And so we don't feel the pain of having wasted our time for whatever we're purchasing. So now when you're going to go buy that $100 pair of jeans, what does it take from you to earn $100? Is that one new client? If you get paid hourly, what is that? 4 hours of your time? Is that pair of jeans worth 4 hours of your freedom? Maybe it is, because you are buying with intention and you realize, you know what? I have purged all of this clothing that doesn't fit me anymore, or I don't like. It's just not something that I have worn in the last 2 years. I'm not holding on to it anymore. And I'm instead choosing to save up for this quality pair of jeans that's going to become a staple in my capsule wardrobe. And then I think, yeah, that is time well spent, literally, because I want this and I choose it. But for a lot of other things that we do and spend money on, if you think about it, not in terms of the dollar amount, but in terms of the hourly rate it costs to buy that thing, is it worth it? Is that thing worth 4 hours of your time? Is that thing worth all of the energy it takes you to, deliver the project to that one client it takes to earn that $100 or whatever it may be? So change your perspective and understand that you're spending freedom when you buy stuff. You're not spending money, you're spending your freedom, which is your time spent earning that money. Ultimately, minimalism is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's important, so you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. And I hope that this is something that we can all take into consideration during this time of the year when we're being pushed to buy more and more and more, get these discounts. You absolutely can't miss this deal. You must have it. You must act on it now. I get it. Some of you may be, in the service industry or, in sales industry, where that's literally what you have to do is, create those calls to action, create this sense of urgency to get people to buy. Even more reason to not get wrapped up in it. When you know the dynamics behind it and you are applying it to your own business, think about it from the reverse point of view when you're becoming the consumer who's getting wrapped up in all of this messaging and acting without thinking. And again, if you have any personal, anecdotes to share, I encourage you to jump off the mic and talk about it. In fact, it's funny because when I was looking to create this workshop, I was overthinking it a bit too much. And I realized, you know what? This workshop's about minimalism. And instead of writing up this huge, long presentation that's full of fluff, I'm going to distill this to the very key points, make it short and sweet, and show that less slides with less fluff can do more if those slides are meaningful and are saying important things that relate. So having said that, I did cap the presentation to a shorter amount of slides because I realized, I don't need to talk about this at length. I almost want to encourage a bit of discussion here and show that, within 15 minutes less than the allotted time here, I wanted to really just nail down the key points and to stress it again, the things that we talked about and the ways it can help you. Again, contentment over comparison. Be happy with what you have. Learn ways to practice gratitude. I see the inner village full of these beautiful affirmations all the time on the daily. Those of you, on the village team, the time and energy you spend to foster meaningful conversations versus just dumping anything in the group and in the chat for the sake of writing stuff. I think that you all know that that's not what your members want. They don't want to be inundated with all of this comments and stuff and fluff that's not as important. Finding gratitude in what you have and the relationship and member community that you've created within the village versus, comparing yourself to other larger co-working spaces or memberships. What you've built is a beautiful space. Intention over impulsion. Again, you know, I see Kim giving applause here, and like, you choose what you're writing towards your community, as opposed to just acting impulsively on your words and feeling like, okay, well, right now there's this movement that's trending, and you know, there's been a lot of it. For example, anytime there's like some big movement and a hashtag gets attached to it, suddenly everyone feels like they have to comment on it or have something to say because that's the trending thing. And so I'm just going to do it. Even if that movement is not personally meaningful to me, then why share it? You know, I make the choice not to get too political with the things I post or say, or, you know, take a strong stance towards, unless it's really important to me. And I feel like I am really invested in this cause, in this idea, in this movement. And then I'm going to say something with intention and have it be meaningful, so that anyone who's following me in my network knows that, okay, when Cindy says something or posts something, she means that. You know, she said something that is important or meaningful to her, as opposed to, oh, whatever, just another one of Cindy's posts. She posts like a million things a day, so whatever, I'm just going to skip through this. I don't post a lot, don't take strong stances a lot, unless it's something that I really feel passionate about. And again, you'll notice that I keep bringing up examples that don't have to do with stuff, because I really want to drive it home that minimalism is about so much more than just buying less stuff and having less stuff. It applies to your relationships. It applies to your attitudes, your actions. And I am trying to be more intentional in general as a human being, versus getting wrapped up in what is happening around me and what other people are doing. Again, quality over quantity. Quality of the things I say, of the people I choose to spend my time with. And having that represent what's important to me. So I hope that helps you all look at this a little differently and aspire to minimalism as this concept and way of living that is so far beyond just superficial stuff. This really is a change in attitude and lifestyle that is going to help you regain your freedom. And, you know, before I became a financial expert, I too was a shopaholic. And when I started this right here, I went to this slide because, again, this is what changed things for me, especially earlier on in my business. And some of you may still be new in your businesses as well, where you're not quite charging as much. You're still trying to be very competitive. So in fact, to earn X dollars for whatever it is you're trying to do or buy, it takes a lot more effort for you. So especially if you're new in your business, think about how much freedom you need to spend to accomplish your goals, whatever it may be, anything that involves money. Think about the amount of freedom that it's going to cost you right now. Kim, I love that you brought up relationships. Many of our decisions are influenced by the people in our life. Yeah. Again, you all know, those of you, in fact, I feel like everyone in the room pretty much has been consistently showing up to my workshops with the Village. So you'll know by now that I'm not afraid to share intimate details about my life, because I'm an open book. I'm a human being. I'm not here to be this all-knowing, untouchable person. I really like to share my stories to provide a sense of solidarity. Because, yeah, going back to my marriage, how long did I let myself stay in that situation, such an unhealthy atmosphere, a toxic dynamic? Because, like Kim mentioned, I was being influenced by the people around me and what they expected of my life and all of the other boxes they hoped I would tick on my milestone list of being an adult. You know, like, Cindy, we always knew you were gonna, you know, show up and be successful and get there. It's only a matter of time until you accomplish X, Y, Z. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I better accomplish X, Y, Z then. Like, I can't disappoint these people. And I And I pushed myself to the limit to try to do these things. And I wasn't happy about it. I was not content. I was comparing, but I was not content with what I had. So yeah, it is about more than just stuff. Think about your relationships. Think about any friends who are just realistically probably not that good for you, where you feel like you have to always be the one to force the conversation or lead things, or you always have to be the one who reaches out, otherwise they never will. Well, if that's the case, is that the quality relationship that you want to spend your time working on? If they couldn't be bothered to follow up with you every now and then, is it worth collecting these human beings in your social circle just for the sake of it? I personally don't think so. And it's nice to have the dead weight out of my life. So with that, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, engaging in the chat and affirming that, you hear me and you're feeling this, and that this feels relevant to you, because honestly, before I knew that there was a word that applied to these types of concepts, i.e. minimalism, I didn't realize that anytime those moments happen where there were less people, less things in my life, every single time I was feeling better about it. So I'm not upset about having less. In fact, I aspire to it. And just visually, when it comes to being productive in my workspace, my mind feels better when my desk is clear and there's not so much stuff distracting me. I'm able to do more, feel better. Kim asked, to everyone, what's the last thing you bought that made you feel really good? Oh my gosh, I want to think about that. It made me feel really, really good. I mean, I'm trying not to, that's the thing, you said stuff, what's the last thing? And I think about how I've been spending my money recently, and I'm like, you know what? I have actually, across the board, been opting more for experiences versus stuff. Even with my new partner, I'm like, don't buy me stuff for Christmas, for Valentine's, for anniversary, for my birthday. I don't want stuff. Let's go do something together. And that made me feel really good. And, when we hit our 1-year anniversary, instead of buying stuff, we did something I never did before, which was splurge on a really fancy multiple course tasting menu at this beautiful restaurant that is normally not something I splurge on, because I'm like, I would never spend that much money eating out. But I think about the fact that I chose that versus just getting wrapped up in stuff because it's what you're supposed to do on an anniversary. And I prepared for it in advance and it felt so good. And I loved every second of it. But in terms of stuff, I don't know. I guess the last thing that I bought that made me feel really good was one of those massage percussion guns. Instead of, because again, I was feeling very stressed. I'm always tightly wound. And I think about all the money it costs to constantly see an RMT to get these massages done. And then, although it feels nice to splurge and be pampered and be taken care of by someone else's hands, think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars I'm saving now that I have this tool, which is so good. If any of you suffer from muscle tension, I highly recommend investing in one of those percussion massage guns that changed my life. And it'll save you a lot of money, and it does the job. So, I mean, I guess that's the last physical item I bought that I feel like I really had to think about it. And I thought I went back and forth on it so many times, and I don't regret it. It made me feel great. But the fact it took me so long to think about a thing that I bought that made me feel really, really good just goes to show that I have discovered what my core values are experiences and having a nice time and creating moments, noteworthy memories that make me feel so, so good versus stuff. And can we agree, I spent money on a Thai massage recently. You know what? A Thai massage is great. I've done that too. That's very, very different than your standard, deep tissue. And I love that as well. And again, pick your experiences. Pick what's important to you. And maybe a Thai massage might cost more than a regular massage, but what you get out of it is more meaningful to you. And you're deciding, to purchase that with intention versus, oh, I heard about this and I'm going to try it, versus I've heard about this, I've been thinking about it for quite some time, I've made sure that I can afford it, I feel like I can spend X hours of my freedom on purchasing this experience, and yes, this is going to feel great and I'm going to love it. So with that, I wish you all to be well, and I hope that you have a very intentional and grateful holiday season. The fact that we're all here, the fact that you have family to spend the time with, I hope that you're grateful for that. After these disturbing 2 years where we lost so much, so many opportunities to do things, people in our lives who we might have lost to COVID. Be grateful for what we have and what we're still able to do. Be grateful for the fact that, yes, although there is some urgency to pare back holiday gatherings, that we have finally been lifted from those back-to-back lockdowns that we were experiencing in Toronto throughout 2020 and early 2021. That was exhausting. Being barred from my family for so long was exhausting. So I am so grateful, and I don't care about stuff. I just want to be with them. I want to see them, and I want us all to be well and healthy. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to pass it back to LaTonya.
Thank you so much, Cindy. We really enjoyed your presentation tonight. As you already said to everyone, it's the holiday season upon us, so remember to get some rest and to really enjoy and be grateful for the time. So I want to wish everyone a great night, and as Cindy already mentioned, you deserve to be well. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Cindy, for being here as well.